Hi guys, today's recipe is a great make-ahead, entertaining breakfast or brunch idea. It's a cheesy egg, potato, and spinach casserole. It's really hearty and delicious, and it's basically a one-pot dish, and you guys are gonna love it, I think. Start off by dicing up in about, I would say, half-inch dice some Yukon Gold potatoes. 1 pound of diced potatoes as well as an onion. You're gonna saute your onion in some butter. So I'm gonna start melting my butter. It's 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. While I'm waiting for that butter to melt, I will just get the thyme ready. You need about a teaspoon. You just pull the thyme leaves right off of the stalks, and that works really well, especially if you have the heartier, woodier thyme. Some thyme is a little bit more tender, so you end up pulling like half the stalk off with the thyme, but then you can just chop that up. It's really not that big of a deal. If it's that tender, you can eat it. In any case, it's really easy just to remove the leaves of thyme that way. And you don't really even need to chop them for this recipe. A pound of spinach. You can use flat leaf spinach, you can use curly spinach, you can use baby spinach, but you're gonna wanna chop it up. It seems like a lot, but as you know, spinach really cooks down a lot, so don't be alarmed when you see the volume of the spinach and think, oh my gosh, that's not gonna fit. It will. If there are any thick stems remaining, just remove those. These are pretty tender because this is baby spinach, so I'm not all that worried about it, but if I find them a stray stem that I've missed, it's not that big of a deal. You could also just tear it like that. Why not? No reason not to. Right, that's all ready. Everything is prepped. My butter is melting, so I'm gonna add my onion. Half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now, as you probably know, I often don't give measurements for salt, but when I'm working with an ingredient like a raw egg, which is what the base of this dish is, I try to give measured amounts because you can't really taste that, right? I mean, you shouldn't because it's not really great in terms of food safety to eat raw eggs. So we take most of the guesswork out of it for you by giving measured amounts when we're using raw eggs in stuff. So anyway, so I have a teaspoon. You want to cook this until maybe a little bit brown around the edges, maybe 5 to 7 minutes. While your onions saute, you might want to take this time to get your eggs ready, just to use your time wisely. I've already cracked my eggs. This is 12 large eggs, so it's a full dozen. And often when you're working with spinach or something like cream spinach, a little bit of nutmeg is added, so I'm adding a little bit of nutmeg, about a 1/4 teaspoon. As I'm whisking my eggs, so you can see they're not completely whisked yet, but that's okay. And 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. And add a little pepper. I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees because that's the temperature that this bakes at. And I always put the oven on as soon as I walk into the kitchen if I'm baking something, because it can take kind of a long time. It can take like 20 minutes for your oven to preheat fully. Okay, this is turning a little bit golden, so now add your spinach. It may seem like the spinach is not going to all fit, and if that's the case, you can add it and stir it around a little bit and then add some more, and that way it will cook down. It wilts very quickly. You can also put the lid on just very briefly. I do that sometimes too. At first you'll be like cursing me because the spinach will be falling all over the place, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh yeah, she was right. Just want it to wilt down. That might take 5 minutes, might take more, might take less. I'm feeling like this is gonna take like a minute, not that long. And this is not the only cooking your spinach is gonna get, so don't worry. You just wanna remove some of that liquid before you add your potatoes and milk and then cook it further. Most of the volume of spinach is water. One of the reasons that I'm cooking this ahead of time is just to remove a little bit of that water. You don't want your final dish to be overly wet. Ta-da! Add your thyme. Give that a little stirry, stir. Just until it's fragrant. You should be able to smell it pretty quickly. The heat will activate the aroma of the herbs. And then add the potatoes. It's 1 pound, diced. And 1 1/2 cups of milk. Potatoes need to cook in the milk, so you want to bring it to a boil and then simmer them until they're just tender. You can season it with a little bit of pepper and then bring it to a boil and cook it until it reduces slightly and thickens slightly, 5 to 7 minutes. So the potato should be tender but not mushy, and the liquid should be slightly reduced and thickened, and I can see that it is. The starch from the potatoes is going into that milk and making it slightly thick, so I'm going to turn it off now. You do need to let this cool, and you can do this ahead of time if you want to, but it needs to cool to room temperature before you add your eggs. In the meantime, you can butter your dish. This is a 2-quart baking dish. I've already buttered mine. And grate your cheese. You're going to need a total of 2 cups of grated fontina. I have them separate because one of the cups is going to go into the egg mixture with the potatoes, etc., and one gets sprinkled on later. When your potato mixture is cool, you can combine it with your egg mixture. Worried I'm going to splatter on myself. I'm very prone to that. I don't know about you guys, but I am. And then add one of those 2 cups of cheese. So it's 3 ounces of fontina gets stirred in. Then this is a 2-quart baking dish. It's been nicely buttered, and the whole egg mixture, cheese, all that stuff goes right in there. And as I said before, my oven is preheating to 375 degrees. Cover with parchment lined foil, and you want to bake this until it starts to set. It should be almost completely set. That should take about 30 minutes. Then uncover it, sprinkle it with the cheese, and bake it until it's golden brown and bubbly, about 15 to 25 more minutes. It's kind of a big range, but it depends on your oven. Once the cheese is melted on top of your casserole, let it cool just a little bit before serving. You don't want to go too crazy because you do want it to be nice and hot while you serve it, but you don't want it to be molten. So I'd say 10 minutes tops. And then scoop it up and serve it. I did say that it was basically a 1-pot dish, but it wouldn't hurt to serve this with a salad or some bacon. We have some great glazed bacon recipes on our website, so you should go check those out and maybe make that to go along with it. Why not? Can't hurt, right? I'm still talking because I see steam rising in front of my face, and I'm like, if I put this in my mouth, I'm gonna burn my mouth, and so I'm trying to stall but also be cute and funny. Is it working? All right, I think it's ready. It's really good, you guys. It's hearty, it's delicious. It's a 1-pot dish that you guys are